Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. As always, well, as always now, advert free, thanks to everybody who is kind enough to support me on Patreon. In this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles, I have quite a big announcement to make, and I realise it's an announcement that might upset some people, but, well, that's just a risk I'm prepared to take. You may remember, nearly a year ago now, I quit the Wargaming Community Contributor Programme as a direct result of the disastrous way in which Wargaming globally handled the whole Sir Foch incident. It was a very big step for me at the time. I was terrified of the consequences, but in retrospect it turns out to, well, in more than one way, have been the right thing to do. I didn't want to do it because I had a very good working relationship with the people in the Wargaming EU community team, but, well, Wargaming as a global company had kind of backed me into a corner, and I didn't really feel as if I had any choice but to quit the community contributor program if I was going to maintain any kind of credibility. And I don't regret quitting. I think in many ways it was a very, very good thing for me to do. It allowed me to, well, I don't want to say be honest about what I think about Wargaming's products, because I feel like I always have been honest about how I feel about Wargaming's products, but if I didn't have that official tie to Wargaming as a member of their community contributor program, it was going to be very, very difficult for people to point the finger at me and say, you're in the pocket of Wargaming. And in that respect, I think it probably ended up being a good thing for Wargaming as well, because if I continued to say good things about World of Tanks and World of Warships, and I have no official or even semi-official ties to the company, then more people are probably going to be prepared to take what I say at face value rather than be suspicious because I'm part of the community contributor program. And this is something that I pointed out Wargaming when we parted ways all that time ago. And I think it's a very good point. And I think they probably agree too, but it hasn't stopped them trying to get me back. What can I say? I'm just that awesome. They've asked me on a number of occasions to rejoin the Wargaming Community Contributor Program, and I've always turned them down. Now, I know you're all sitting there thinking, Jingles, just get to the point. Tell us you've rejoined the Wargaming Community Contributor Program. Stop trying to spin it out. I have not rejoined the Wargaming Community Contributor Program. Not quite. I was contacted again last week by a member of the EU community team and asked to join the World of Warships Community Contributor Program, which is a completely new thing and entirely separate from World of Warplanes and World of Tanks. So what I have done is accepted an invitation from Wargaming to become part of the World of Warships Community Contributor Program. And I did it for a bunch of reasons, most of which were entirely selfish. For one thing, once again, I get to see and play with all of the new ships before everybody else. Yes, I am that cheap. I don't deny it. I don't deny it. I am an unashamed World of Warships fanboy. I probably play that game more than any other game at the moment. And I realise the game isn't perfect. I mean, far from it. What game is? There are certainly issues with World of Warships, but, well, here's the thing. And this is one of the major contributory factors that influenced my decision to give the World of Warships Community Contributor Program a try. Let us say, for example, there's, I don't know if you want to call it a bug or a game mechanic or a feature in World of Tanks that pisses you off, or that you don't understand how it works and you would like some kind of explanation. If you were a member of the Wargaming Community Contributor Program and you had a question like that with World of Tanks, let's say, for example, pop-up distance. Perfect example. And what I'm talking about here is, let's say, for example, you're at one end of a street on Ruinberg, and you've got your gun pointing down the road. And at the far end of the road, maybe 200 meters away, an enemy light tank shoots past the crossroad and just drives right across the intersection. Now, this is something that has actually been improved in World of Tanks, but it's still a good example, because what used to happen, you're sitting there watching this intersection, specifically to shoot any enemy tanks that try to cross the road ahead of you. And a light tank goes zooming by at 50 kilometers per hour. And in the length of time that it would take between the game recognizing that you had spotted this light tank and then actually rendering the light tank so you were able to shoot at him, he would have already crossed the intersection and been in cover on the other side of the road. The game would only render that light tank and give you the opportunity to shoot at him when it was already too late. He was already behind the buildings on the opposite side of the road. Despite the fact that you were sitting there specifically for the purpose of ambushing anybody who tried to cross the road up ahead of you. You got your gun pre-aimed at the corner and you're just waiting for something to shoot at. Now, they have addressed this issue in World of Tanks quite some time ago, actually. It used to be really, really annoying, but they have since updated the frequency at which the server calculates spotting requests. I don't know, whatever it is. They fixed it. It's no longer quite such an issue. Not in World of Tanks, but it is still a bit of an issue in World of Warships. Those of you who play World of Warships will be only too well aware that quite often a member of your team will spot an enemy ship that was undetected by you, and the icon for that ship appears on the minimap, and you get the message in battle chat, enemy cruiser spotted. You look at the minimap, he's inside your shooting range, and you may happen to have your guns pointed in the right direction anyway, and you go looking for a target and there's absolutely nothing there. And it will take a few seconds before the game renders the target cruiser in question. So something like that, which used to be an issue in World of Tanks, isn't really so much of an issue anymore, but it's still definitely an issue in World of Warships. Now, if you had a question about that process in World of Tanks and you weren't a member of the community contributor program, your only real option was to ask a question on the forums, which was probably never going to get noticed by anybody who mattered or cared, and would almost certainly never get an answer from the development team in Minsk. Even if you were a member of the community contributor program, all you could really do was ask one of the community team, who are not games developers, these are PR people. You could pose the question to one of the community team and hope that they would forward it onto the developers at Minsk, and then hope that the developers at Minsk would bother to supply an answer. And even if all of these things happened, and there was no guarantee that they would, even if you were a member of the community contributor program, you would be lucky to get an answer back in less than 3 weeks. But the World of Warships community program has a Discord server with a dedicated channel direct to the World of Warships developers in St. Petersburg in Russia. And this very question, pop-up distances and draw distances when ships are spotted, was asked today. And the development team had an answer within 3 hours. Unfortunately, the answer was, it's a tech thing we're working to improve now, need to overhaul a part of the server core. So it's something that they're trying to fix, but don't expect it to get fixed anytime in the immediate future. But the point was, we got an answer the same day. We didn't have to wait months to find out whether or not Wargaming were even aware that the problem existed, let alone what they were planning to do about it. So that was quite a factor in influencing my decision to give the World of Warships community contributor program a go. It wasn't the only one, of course. I also get to take a look at all of the new ships before anybody else in exactly the same way that I used to be able to when I was part of the more general, wider wargaming community contributor program. Of course, I'll also get invited to the kind of community events that only community contributors get invited to take part in, and last but not least, I get to see all of the new ships before anybody else as well. Like, well, this one, for example, Z39, new premium Tier 8 German destroyer, armed with 150mm guns. All stats, of course, subject to change. It is a work in progress. It is a test ship. I do have access to it on the public test server, but I'm not allowed to play in it. I can just sit there looking at it, but I'm allowed to share the stats with you, at least, you know, insofar as they are at the moment. Bearing in mind, of course, that it is a work in progress. But there it is, Z39, upcoming premium Tier 8 German destroyer. Now, I realise that this decision is going to have consequences. You know, I'm not stupid. Of course there are going to be consequences. There are going to be people who feel that my word means nothing, that I've gone back on my decision to renounce and cut all ties with wargaming. And they're absolutely right. Well, of course they are. I can't deny it, can I? I've just told you. I mean, I've just spent the last nearly 10 minutes telling you that I'm joining the World of Warships Community Contributor Program. Well, not that I am joining, I have. I am now a member, and enjoying the benefits thereof. But I know that as a result of this, there are going to be people out there who feel that my word doesn't mean anything, because I quite famously quit the Community Contributor Program all that long time ago. I can't even remember what it was now, as a direct result of the way wargaming handled the Sir Foch incident. But I also quit War Thunder, even further back than that, as a result of the way they handled the Fly Daily incident, and I gave them another chance. And I don't regret giving them another chance. I mean, I don't really play War Thunder much these days. But I still think it's a decent competitor to World of Tanks. It offers something different. And occasionally I do get a very, very nice replay for it that I like to share with you guys. So I gave War Thunder another chance. Even though I don't really do much War Thunder content on the channel anymore, I did give them another crack at the whip. And I don't regret doing that. And also I feel that it wasn't... Well, it was kind of unfair and very unfortunate to the World of Warships dev team, the whole incident that happened over World of Tanks with Sir Foch. I mean, it was absolutely nothing to do with them. But they suffered because of it as well. Purely and simply because they were owned by Wargaming. So, even though it might upset people, hopefully not, but let's face it, the internet being the internet, it probably is going to upset some people, but I am actually quite happy to be part of the World of Warships community contributor team. Even if it means people are going to be able to point the finger at me again and say you can't trust anything he says because he's in the pocket of Wargaming. But if you do think that, there's probably very little that I can say or do to change your opinion, and, well, let's be honest, you probably don't like me very much in the first place, and if that's the case, what the hell are you doing here, watching an episode of Mingles with Jingles? What's wrong with you? So, with all of that said and done, what does any of this mean to you, the subscriber, the person that comes back every day to watch the videos that I upload? Short answer, probably nothing. Seriously, I'm not anticipating changing the balance of the coverage of games that I do. I'm not suddenly going to start doing 3 or 4 World of Warships videos every week. I'm quite happy with my publishing schedule. You lot don't seem to be too upset with it either, and I'm certainly not going to rock the boat, pun intended, where that sort of thing's concerned. I can't satisfy everybody, of course. That's what she said. Jingles, get your mind out of the gutter. Okay, now, I mean, there's always going to be somebody that wants more World of Tanks videos, somebody wants more War Thunder videos, somebody wants more World of Warships videos, somebody wants Subnautica every day of the week. I've always just uploaded whatever content I felt like uploading, and, well, actually, that's not true, and that's another good point. You see, back in the day, when I was part of the Wargaming Community Contributor Program, there was a lot of pressure on me. There was a lot of pressure on all of the community contributors. See, the way it worked was any time there was a new premium tank or a new line of tanks or tank destroyers or new warships or whatever, under the old program, the deal was that if you wanted to get access to take a look at all of these new things that were coming out, a video was expected of you. And at the rate, particularly in World of Tanks, that premium tanks were coming out, there was like a new one every month. That was a lot of pressure to produce videos for Wargaming. And it got to the stage, you know, rightly or wrongly, but I was in the position where I was starting to feel as if my schedule was being dictated by Wargaming. And I didn't like that. And that was one of the major benefits for me personally of quitting the program in the first place. Aside from the whole moral implications, but the fact that suddenly I felt a lot more free to just do whatever content I wanted to do. And I know for a fact that that showed through in the videos that I was doing. People recognised instantly that I was suddenly feeling a lot happier with the work that I was doing. And I'm certainly not going back to working under those kind of conditions. And I've only been a member of this World of Warships program for a couple of days, but they just don't seem to have those same kind of pressures. So as far as you guys are concerned, the only real practical difference that you're going to experience as a result of my making this decision is that future World of Warships videos may include some work in progress footage of ships that are only available to super testers or community contributors. Other than that, business as usual. So, moving on swiftly, it's time to read some of the messages that you guys have sent to me. Now, I need to apologise in advance for this one, because this is something that I really should have read in last week's episode of Mingles with Jingles, but completely forgot. So, Colleen Bragg, please accept my sincere apologies. I hope I'm not too late, but I accept that I probably am. Still, better late than never. I'm sure that your boyfriend Jason will get a kick out of this, even if you've already done it yourself. What are you talking about, Jingles? Let me just put it this way. A couple of weeks ago, Colleen sent me a message, and it said this. My name is Colleen. The reason why I'm writing you is my boyfriend is a very big watcher of you. He loves your videos, and I love watching him watch them. Honestly, I need your help, Mr. Mighty Jingles. Could you please help me propose to my boyfriend, Jason? Jason, if she hasn't already asked, and she probably has, because I'm crap. But on the off chance that she's very, very patiently waited for me to get around to this, Colleen would love to marry you. So do the right thing, make an honest woman out of her, and I wish both of you the very best of luck for the future. Oh, I am so shit. I really am. You see, this is why the Jingles internet dating service was never a good idea. I am terrible. But anyway, I hope you're both very happy together. Best wishes to you both. The next thing I wanted to talk about, again, it's World of Warships related, but I feel it's kind of important. Did anybody watch the latest Kings of the Sea tournament? If not, and you're interested in World of Warships, you definitely should have, because the games were absolutely fantastic. But they did something in this latest Kings of the Sea tournament that they haven't done in previous tournaments. They were running 2 tournaments concurrently, one for the EU and one for the North American server. And once they'd found an EU and a North American champion, the top teams in both leagues played against each other in a sort of battle of the Atlantic. Now, here's the thing. Nobody really expected the North American teams to be able to beat the EU teams. And they didn't. And I'm not saying this just because I play on the EU server and, yay, go EU. I'm just being realistic here. There is a much smaller community on the North American server. And unfortunately, this is a very sad fact, they really don't get an awful lot of support from Wargaming North America. Now, Wargaming North America is a much smaller office than Wargaming EU. I know that, I accept that. But the North American community, and I'm talking about the players here, the guys that actually take part in the tournaments, actually get more support from the EU office than they do from the North American office. And while nobody was expecting the North American teams to be able to beat the best of the EU teams, one of them did. And they didn't beat just anybody. They beat Omni. Okay, I need to qualify that statement. They didn't beat Omni, they lost 2-1. But they won one of the games, and that's one game more than anybody was expecting. The clan I'm talking about here are PSV, or Penetrations at Sufficient Velocity. I was watching their match against Omni live on the stream, and when they lost, very narrowly by the way, Omni won it by the skin of their teeth, I commented in the stream chat about how well they'd played, and I was contacted after the games by WarEagle97, one of the PSV players, and he asked me to help try to raise awareness that there is in fact a competitive scene on the North American server, which sadly very few people appear to even be aware of. PSV are a great team, but they really struggle to find new players. There just really doesn't seem to be any kind of competitive scene on the North American server, and there quite clearly, judging by PSV's performance, could be, if only there was some more awareness of it and a little bit more support from the North American Wargaming community office. So I'm just, stirring the pot here a little, doing what I can do, just to try to help raise awareness for the North American World of Warships competitive scene. It exists, and there are some great teams out there. If only they could just get a little bit more support. So I'm certainly very happy to do what I can to try to raise awareness, and War Eagle did say that he was entirely happy to send me some replays so that you guys can see, if you missed the Kings of the Sea tournaments, just exactly how good these guys can be. It's a win-win situation. I mean, there's literally no downside to this. I get to show you some of the most impressive replays from some of the best players on the North American server, while at the same time raising awareness to the fact that there even is a competitive scene on the North American server, and hopefully encouraging Wargaming North America to help foster and grow the competitive scene there. Finally, because we are approaching the end of this episode of Mingles with Jingles, I just thought I'd let you know that I still haven't given up on a new intro for Mingles with Jingles, even though Sony Music Group have absolutely no interest whatsoever in even replying to any inquiries I make about licensing the old 1941 March theme music. But you may be aware that there's a certain gentleman who goes by the name of Sammy Hallam, who's done a lot of the art that I use on my videos and my Facebook page and my YouTube channel and so on and so on. Very, very talented artist. He's also done the Tank Chats t-shirt with David Fletcher for the Tank Museum. And runs, I probably should mention this again, I definitely don't pimp it out nearly as much as I do, the merchandise store with all of the Jingles loot, available at the link in the video description. Well, he's hard at work on developing a new animated intro for Mingles with Jingles, and he's recruited a musician as well. I've had a look at the work in progress. It's great. You're going to love it. I wish I could share it with you, but you know what these artists are like. They're very precious about their work. They don't want anybody to see it until it's perfect. You can understand that. But there is a new intro for Mingles with Jingles coming up, and I really can't wait because the work in progress is fantastic. I can tell you one thing, it's kind of Fallout 4 inspired, but I've probably already said too much. Anyway, I'll update you on that as and when I'm actually able to, once the artists involved are happy with their work. But that's pretty much it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.